Hello, and thank you for joining me for another episode of In Her Mind, the podcast. Today is a very, very special episode because for the first time, I have a guest contributor joining me for the live conversation. Today, you'll hear from someone I've known for well over, can I say it? Yes, I'll say it because she looks freaking amazing. Well over 16 years now. Miss Jewel Thornton is our guest contributor today, and we're going to continue talking all things women in workplace with part two of the emails of an angry Black woman. So, Jewel, I'd like to officially welcome you to the podcast and give my sincerest thanks for you taking the time today to join us. In preparation for today, I was thinking of how we met and wanted to share with our listeners that Jewel was actually my boss early on in my career. I was in a frontline role and earned a promotion to a different department that would be the catalyst for my future career growth. I remember you proofreading my resumes and doing mock interviews with me to help me prepare. You were always someone who not only recognized potential in the young Black women around you, but did your part to ensure that if we wanted to achieve higher things, we knew that we had a champion and mentor in you. So thank you and welcome, Jewel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, so as we get into our episode today, we're following up on where we left off last week when we were entering this topic about workplace. And Jewel, you've been in the workplace for a long time with experience as a frontline employee, a manager, and a career as a tenured HR professional. So you were immediately someone that I knew that we had to have on the show. But we want to hear from you. So, what position or stage of your life was most impactful from your career perspective?
I would say when I was managing frontline employees, that was an opportunity for me to manage all levels, different personalities, different role types. As a manager, even though I wasn't the expert in everything, which I thought I was, but that taught me that I was not an expert in everything. And so that caused me to have to learn, educate myself, and to get to know not only my team, but also the work that we were responsible for. Um, During that time, that's where I decided, or when my vision came, that I needed to be in HR because of the things that I dealt with working with frontline employees. It stemmed from bad attendance, bad work ethics, um, just everything. And anything that I did, I had to reach out to HR. And I had to ask everything like, how do I handle this? What do I say? How do I craft this email? I want to make sure I'm not, stepping over boundaries. Make sure that I'm not treating someone differently, making sure I'm treating everyone fair. And so I was blessed to be assigned to an amazing HR consultant who was also an African American woman, and she was just real with me. I started off like explaining, like, "Oh my God, I need help. I have this situation, or I have this issue, and I don't know what to do." She would say, "Breathe," and she would just tell me to slow down. Let's talk. And so that right there let me know, like, this is something that I want to do because I am passionate about working with individuals. But I also appreciated her telling me to slow down. It's okay. It's not as bad as what you think it is. We're going to get through this together. And so that's what sparked my interest into going into human resources.
Wow. I love that, first off, when you encountered a problem, the first thing that you did was you didn't just say, you know what, I don't like the way that this system goes. I don't like the way that this looks. You said, you know what, I want to be a part of the solution. And first thing I'm going to do is ask for some help, make sure I'm getting it right.
Yes, yes.
And then ultimately you end up being someone that helps others get it right.
Yes.
So I love that.
Yes.
Wow. And that's interesting as well that, that there was, another Black woman, who happened to be the person that helped you. Do you think that shaped your experience at all, like any more differently?
I do. I do. And believe it or not, and I know your last episode you were talking about LinkedIn and connections. I still connect with her. And she, we're connected on LinkedIn, and she looks at my profile and she sees all the positions I've had and promotions. And she'll send me a little message like, "Oh my God, I'm so proud of you. And can I come work for you?" And I'm like, "No, I need to be working for you." And so I love that she stayed connected with me, even though we're no longer in the same company. She's still in HR, but she's been in different, areas of HR. But she still like comes back and like checks in on me. I want to
Wow.
make sure that I'm okay. And, she jokingly said, I want to work for you. But she was like, no, I'm serious. I want to work for you. Because she said that she's so proud of me and just seeing how I've grown throughout the years.
Hmm.
And I always give her credit. I always give her credit, the conversations we've had or the advice that she's given me. She even had me come shadow her, in which that wasn't really a thing to have someone go into HR because it's all kinds of confidentiality, different things you see.
Right.
But she was like, come
Isn't
on.
it top secret? Getting into HR is
Yes,
like getting into the
yes,
Kingsman or
yes,
something. It's like,
yes, yes. And I would say, you snuck me in, but she didn't sneak me in. But I was able to shadow her for like a half day. And, she showed me some of the things that she dealt with, how she goes about things. And I was just like, oh, I need to be here. And so that's what shaped me to who I am now. And I actually do that for individuals now, whether they work with me or just someone wants to learn more. I'm always willing to like, okay, come on, let's meet up, let's talk. Okay, you can shadow me or let's connect. So
I'm loving this so, so much. And loving it even more because one of the things that we took away as parting advice last time, and I know you're going to have your own parting advice for us, but right now it's coming up for me when we talked about having your tribe and the significance of this tribe or your group of advisors, whatever you want to call them, and how important it is to have them. And I was doing my best to try to explain not everybody has to be, like your soul tribe, like your friends or your buddies, but there will be people and you're going to know, when you meet them
yes,
and they'll stay with you. And you just described someone, it sounds like she became,
yes,
a part of your tribe. Did you say that?
yes, yes. And I want to share another secret. I have a group of ladies, Black women, that we work in HR together, and we still stay connected to this day. And we have all part ways, different organizations, and we group text. Hey, I have this issue. Have you ever had this before? No, but I can help you out and find out. Or yes, this is how we do this. And we meet, have dinner together. We, laugh about our old times together in our old company, and then we also talk about currently what we're doing now. So that's my tribe. So we're thick as thieves. Like we stay connected, and I'm telling you, anything work related, I can send one of them an email, I
Hmm.
can send them a text, and they can give me some advice, or vice versa. They'll reach out to me asking for advice about like a particular situation on how to handle it. So that is that, yeah.
That sounds so beautiful. You are pouring into each
Yes,
other,
yes,
and not just because
yes,
the other thing we say to watch out for is the energy vampires,
yes,
which it's hard sometimes to go to
yes,
people for advice. But
yes.
I love that you all have an even flow where you're pouring into each other as well. That's beautiful.
Yes, yes.
Um, with having a squad like that in place, having the lessons that you've learned, in your career, I know that it took time for you to build those folks, and they're probably from different points in your career that you
Mhm.
collected them. Is there a specific role that you were in, or kind of a period of your career that you thought produced some of your greatest lessons?
I would say when I moved into more of the business partner role of HR, I would say that was a lesson learned on that that time, because in that role, you take on so much. You're actually like the front line of HR. So you get hit with everything, complaints, reduction in forces, um, leave of absences, anything that a manager or employee has a question on about a policy or procedure, that role is answers that. And so you have to know those answers. And so um, that time, the policy manuals, that was my best friend, because any advice that I gave, I had to make sure I wasn't giving Jewel advice. I had to make sure I was giving the company advice that was provided to us so that I could not only quote it, but also share it with the individual, like, okay, well, next time this is where you can go to look for this and things like that. But it was something there that kept me on my toes. So that role there, yeah, I mean, anything that impacted the company, whether it was legal, movement, that particular position, that was that person. There was some things that I had to make decisions on that I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to make this decision. But that was a part of my role.
Wow.
Um, and it was I at first took it personal, And I was like, oh my God, they think I'm just this bad person. I'm the bad HR lady and I'm being mean and I'm this and that. But it took me a while to realize, like, no, I'm not being the mean lady. I'm being the good lady because I'm giving some direction and I'm here to help. And so during that time, when you hear HR, people cringe. When you send them an email or instant message, they take a while to respond because they're like, oh boy, I'm in trouble. Or just walking in a room or in an area and they know you're HR, they kind of like clutch themselves and like, oh my God, I hope they're not coming near me. So I try to make HR as a positive instead of a negative. So resource, we're a resource. So I try to turn it into positive. So even though someone would come to me, about a situation or an example of something, I always started off and indicated like, well, thank you for coming, thank you for working with me or reaching out to me. And I would just explain, what needs to be done, this or that. But at the end, I would say, at the end of the day, we have to do what's best for the company. So what I'm saying is not Jules saying this. This is what's best for the company because I am trying to alleviate risk.
Right.
And I would always say, I don't want to see you in an orange suit, and I don't want to be in an orange suit. So the rules, we're going to do it the best that we can. And so that would make them laugh, and they were like, "Oh, I didn't realize that what I say could be against me legal." I'm like, "Absolutely, because anything that you do, and if that employee seeks legal, you're going to be going to folks, not me, you."
I can imagine that was pretty stressful, not just in those moments of, wanting to be just so deliberate and intentional about the words you use, but even for you, when you strip all that off and go home, having to tell someone that, we don't need you to come back to work tomorrow or things like that. And on this podcast, we do a lot of talking about well-being. And specifically, we talked about last week, stress and how work stress is significant for Black women. How did you manage some of that, or how do you manage the stress that comes with roles like this?
So, yes. So, well-being, mental health. As an HR professional, that's something that we encourage employees to do. We give them the EAP information. We tell them, oh, go take a break. You have PTO, you have STO, you have time off, take some time off, but we forget about ourselves. And so a lot of times we take that home with us. Even though someone has violated a policy or did something that we have to terminate them, you never want to see anyone lose their job. And, especially if they have loved ones, children, previously divorced, they've already had some transitions happen in their life. And now we're telling them, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's tough. Even just thinking about all of that.
Yes. And so you take it home with you, like you take it with you. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, how do I release this? And so one thing that we have to do is we have to work on our mental health. So some companies encourage us to do wellness activities. And so, mindfulness. So a lot of times I'm listening to music in my office because I know I'm going to have a rough day today. I'm going to have to do something.
Yeah, so you're preparing ahead of time.
Myself. I'm singing, I'm listening to music. Or the day before, I may go to work out at the gym, or I may do a line dance or something that's going to get me, loosen up because I know after that it's going to be rough. I'm going to have a bad day, or it's going to be, this or that. And so oftentimes I've lost sleep, running things in my head like, okay, make sure I say this, stick to the script. I've taken notes, I've typed out things just to make sure that I don't go over. I'm an emotional person. So if I see someone else cry, I'm going to cry. But I'll have to tell myself, Jules, suck it up. Don't you cry. But when they leave out that room, tears just fall, because it's like someone's livelihood, but it is stressful. So I do try to take time for me. So I call it my self-care, whether it's me going to get my hair done, my nails done, pedicure, gym. I have to make sure that I'm number one as well after I do all of this work, because at the end of the day, how am I going to be my best if I'm not my best?
Yes.
So
I love that you are preparing ahead of time for the inevitable. So many times we will just kind of procrastinate, and I'm going to call it self-sabotage, where it's like, we already know, woof, man, I've got this monster that's coming to get me at 3:00, but I'm going to do nothing but think about how that monster's going to eat me up, at 3:00 and do nothing else. But I love that you're already knowing these are things that could jeopardize my well-being. I'm going to plan as best as I can, knowing that I'm still going to face that. I'm going to face it. I'm going to survive. I absolutely love that. And This is a podcast, where we like to talk about the hardships and the traumas, but we're also looking for some solution here. And the last thing that I kind of sent everyone away with last time was some advice. And there were a few things that I recommended. One of those, recommended was, about, of course, building your tribe and that trusted advisors with you. Secondly, though, I reminded everybody that you want to avoid as many times as you can, wherever necessary, burning bridges. And so I gave the example of having LinkedIn connections, and based upon those, who you've collaborated with professionally, like letting that be your guide, regardless of whether you care to go out for drinks with them or not. So for today, I wanted to ask you, Drew, what are two pieces of advice that you'd share with our listeners from your personal perspective? And then we're going to ask the HR pro, but if you could, this time it's free space. Jewel gets to talk. What would Jewel say? Two pieces of advice.
Let's see. I would say never burn a bridge. That saying, keep your enemies close.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what it is. So I am a true advocate of keeping people close. I have a LinkedIn page, and several of the people that I connect with are former employees, former peers that we bumped heads, we didn't get along, things like that. But I also see that they are congratulating me on, the things that I've, accomplished. They've sent me messages like, I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy. Congratulations. They've apologized to me of some things that when they worked with me prior, and things. And so some have reached out to me for advice, recommendations. So I absolutely agree with that. No, you don't have to go out to eat, have cocktails with them. No, 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 no. But you keep it on a professional level, because I'm pretty sure I've ruffled some feathers in my career. I know my name has been somewhere like, oh my God, she drives me up the wall. I hate working with her. She doesn't, I know for a fact. So I try to put myself in those situations. And so when someone does reach out to me and things like that, I'm not thinking about the past. I'm like, okay, hey, how are you? So that's one advice there. Keep them close. Hey, there's something that they're in a career or is doing something that you're interested in, reach out to them. Mm-hmm. That'll really wow them because they're like, oh,
who are you telling? I love the humility of that and the growth in it all. It's like putting hope out there. Like, you know what? I know that we might have had some tensions, but I'm believing in you and the core of you that you are growing to be better because I'm growing to be better. I love that. I love that. Yes. What else would you offer us?
Let's see. I would also offer, one of the things is networking. Depending on what cities, states that you live in, there's a lot of networking opportunities. And so oftentimes you may bump into somebody that you worked in your past. And so you're face to face with this person. Yeah, it's awkward, but you're like, you know what? Hi, how are you? It's been a while.
So I love the brightness in your face right now.
Yes. How are you? Looking well. Oh my God. So networking, whether it's in person, webinars, just connecting, networking, because that's a great opportunity there too, not only to brush up your skills, but you can also give advice to someone else when you're out, because again, we're table talking, we're speaking over some cocktails or some cheese and crackers, and you're just talking about things, and that person may be dealing with something that you've dealt with in your career or currently dealing with. And so you can always connect. It doesn't hurt anyone to connect.
It doesn't. I love that too. I like to live by kind of my rule of thumb of remembering in all times that in any situation I'm going to shift between being a student and a teacher. Yes. It's like, all right, what should I be? And sometimes it's, even flow right in the middle of both. Yes. So I love that and that openness.
Yes.
You're giving us some gems here, Okay. So Jewel has spoken to us. Now we're going to ask Jewel to give us some of that hard advice, because she's seen people fall into the pitfalls of mistakes. And while there could be a million things she'd tell us, we're going to ask Jewel, what is one thing that right now people should start, stop, continue doing? What is that thing that as an HR professional, people need to know?
I would say, as an HR professional pro, never be too big for yourself because I've seen it where people get promotions, get asked to do special projects, and their head is huge, 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 huge. They don't need advice. They don't want any input. They're like, oh, I got this. But then when something is not right or a project's not done or something is not where it needs to be, and a manager or your manager comes to you and says, hey, this is not correct, this is not right, you often feel defensive about it. You feel like, oh, they're treating me unfairly. I feel like I'm in a hostile work environment. You hired me for this role, and now you're telling me I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like there you should humble yourself down. Okay. I don't care what level of role you're in, VP, director, manager, specialist, stay humble. Stay humble.
Because you're preaching to me. I'm about to go,
stay humble because you don't know everything. And things change. And we get caught up in job descriptions or your expectations of your role. But always be open because that can shift. It can shift. So you can't go in thinking A, B, C, D, E, F, G, this is what I do every day. And then someone comes in and says, okay, well, now I'm even doing ABC this way. I need you to do it this way. So you have to be open, 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 open. So humble yourself down, ask for help, meet with your manager and say, hey, how am I doing? Is everything going? Yeah, get some feedback because you may think you bag the chips, the bag, the French fries, and the shake, but you're not. And so try to get some feedback. Go out and research your role, out and see like, am I doing everything that I should be as a project manager or a director of operations? Go out and research just to make sure that you're staying where you need to be. But again, nothing wrong with being humble. That is something that keeps my job going because I'm constantly getting people. I'm treating unfairly. My manager's being mean. And then after I look and research, I'm like, well, no, they're not. They're just giving you expectations, or they're just making sure that you're on the same page. You didn't do that correctly. I'm seeing this.
And that's that value again. Way back, this takes me back to the very beginning of where we started. And you said, you would consult with your HR partner, and come to her and ask the right questions. We're never too big to say, I don't know. And that's why I'm seeking advice.
Yeah. I'll tell them again, if I see them, I'm like, now go back and do what you need to do. Humble yourself down. Go apologize. Fix this.
I love that.
I'll tell them that. And they're like, thank you so much for being honest and not making me feel like, and I'm like, no, that's what I'm here for because guess what? I was you years ago.
And I love the gratitude. That's right. That's right. That is right. Yes, you've just given us just so much to take away with, and some really sound advice about not just how we should navigate ourselves in the workplace, but how we should be thinking differently and how we can be more receptive, to feedback when it comes from HR. As you can hear, Jewel is a lovely, lovely, lovely woman. So don't be afraid to reach out to your HR person. You should reach out to your HR person. And in this case, our resident HR person, if you have questions that you have, if this has sparked something within you of the workplace, you are welcome to send those questions in, and we can try to get those to Jewel. But that does not mitigate anything that you. That she's not a replacement for an attorney. She's not a replacement for you making an official ethics complaint or anything like that. But for some general sound advice, we'd love to help you here. And as we continue navigating the twists and turns of the workplace, it is important to understand that we are never alone in our circumstances. Someone has walked in your shoes or is currently walking a similar path, and your testimony has the power to inspire and motivate others. If you see someone going through a tough time at work, be the difference by offering a listening ear, a helping hand, or support for their ideas. Know that your actions or lack thereof matter. We can either be intentional builders of community or unknowing supporters of complicity. So you can decide who you want to be. And with that, we thank Jewel so much for coming on today. I'm so excited that we have had her here. And again, if you have something to add to this conversation, we'd love to know. So please feel free to share it with me. You can also send those questions you had for Jewel to the same address. Email it to the inhermindpodcast@gmail.com. You can keep up with the latest happenings, give feedback, ask questions, offer ideas for topics, or even share your interest in joining me for a future conversation by engaging with us via our social channels. Right now, you can find us on Facebook or Instagram. Just look us up by name, the In Her Mind Podcast, and hit the like button and follow us to stay connected. And of course, you can listen to new podcast episodes and replay your favorites, including this episode on our YouTube channel, simply stated In Her Mind Podcast. And with that, Jewel, any parting words for us?
Again, just be yourself. Don't be afraid to ask questions and smile. That's all I can say. Live life. Be free.
Isn't that? We love it. Live life, be free, and be well. Thank you all for joining us.